Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention please? Our service is just about to commence, so can I ask anyone with a mobile phone if they can please have it switched off or silent? Thank you.
Thanks for that, Mavis. She never did like saying goodbye. Good morning, everyone. My name's Dale Eggleton. I'm a long-time family friend, and it's a privilege to be entrusted with conducting today's service for Mavis. We're here to remember and celebrate the life of a wonderful lady, a golden girl in Mavis. Before we begin, as was mentioned before, can I ask everyone again to make sure, if you haven't already, to put your phones on silent before we start the service. The family thanks you all for your presence here today, and those that are joining us online as well, and invite you back to Terry and Barry's house after the celebration of Mavis's life to continue on at about 1:30 p.m. Mavis Leah Brown, nee Furphy, was born on the 6th of January 1927 at Crown Street Women's Hospital, Surrey Hills. One of three children to Harold and Aletha Furphy from McMahon's Point, North Sydney, with an elder sister Judy and brother Ronnie. Mavis's school days were spent at Homebush, North Sydney and Lavender Bay. At a young age, she worked at Bon March Laundry and then at Kalamazoo Printing Office at McMahon's Point. Mavis taught ballroom dancing at Phyllis Bates School of Dancing and often attended dance sessions at the Trocadero, where she met her soon-to-be husband, Jimmy Brown. Mavis was selling raffle tickets this night, and Jimmy said to her, "I'll buy one if you have a dance with me." Good line, Jimmy. After a couple of weeks of dating Mavis moved to Melbourne with a girlfriend and stayed for an extended holiday of 6 months. When Mavis arrived back home to McMahon's Point, her father said to her, "That fella, Jimmy Brown, he's been coming around looking for you." Well done, Mavis. Absence of the heart made the heart grow fonder. So Mavis and Jimmy began courting and eventually married at Surrey Hills in 1950. Jimmy and Mavis's first daughter, Terry, was born in 1952 and followed by Laurel, who was born in 1954. After Terry arrived, the family moved to Victoria Street in McMahon's Point, where they became very good friends with Gwen and George Innes and their daughters, Gail and Diane, and this valued friendship still exists today. Jimmy's daughter from his previous marriage, Carol, was fondly remembered by Auntie Mavis. Carol and her husband John have two children, Karen and Craig. Around 1962, Jimmy and Mavis relocated and took over the managing role of Thomas Dixon Funeral Services in Crown Street, Darlinghurst. This lasted for 2 years, after which they relocated again to the entrance on the Central Coast to take over the managing role of the Lakes District Funeral Services for Eric and Betty Boland. Betty and Eric were also valued friends until the time of their passing. Over 50 years of great friendship. Jimmy and Mavis eventually purchased the premises, after approximately 5 years. But it wasn't all work for Mavis and Jimmy, as they loved going to concerts and live shows in Sydney and locally here on the Central Coast, where Mavis had an uncanny knack of attracting the star of the show's attention. At a Robert Goulet show, he left the stage and sang exclusively to Mavis. After being at a Barry Manilow show, she uncannily bumped into him, met him and chatted after the show. Don Lane, while performing at the Central Coast Leagues Club to a packed auditorium, singled out Mavis, got her up on stage for a Q&A session. One of these questions was, "What does your husband do for a living?" Mavis answered proudly, "He buries people." That, funnily enough, Don quickly wrapped up the Q&A session. When Jimmy and Mavis travelled to the US, they went to see Debbie Reynolds in Las Vegas. After the show, Debbie Reynolds came off stage and asked all to come on and follow me. Mavis needed no more invitation than that. When Jimmy walked out, he was shocked and surprised to see his Mavis strutting her stuff, clasping Debbie Reynolds by the waist, leading the entourage through the casino, doing the Congo. Her acquired dancing skills showed her with high kicking her heels here, there and everywhere. It was certainly a sight to behold for Jimmy and those that were lucky enough to be in Vegas that night to witness Mavis the showgirl. But Shirley Bassey was Mavis' all-time favourite. Jimmy always approved of Mavis's enjoying a busy social life as long as she was home to make his sandwich, a cup of tea and peel the skin off his Frankfurt. Another highlight for Mavis and Jimmy was going on the 2GO cruise in 1980 around the Pacific Islands with Lorraine and Greg Barnett. Mavis always spoke fondly of their holiday and spoke about how the group, who would meet for a few drinks before dinner each night, grew bigger and bigger each night. But surprise, surprise, Mavis and Jimmy didn't sit with these friends for dinner because, you guessed it, Mavis and Jimmy were special guests of the captain and got to sit at the captain's table every night. Terry married Barry Brown in 1972 and Laurel married Brian Herman in 1978. And then the grandchildren came along. Damien and Jay, born to Terry and Barry, and Corinne and Trent, born to Laurel and Brian. Sadly, Jimmy passed away on Easter Sunday 1983. After Jimmy's passing, Terry and Barry decided to add an extension upstairs to their home at Shelley Beach for Mavis, where she spent the last 37 years of her life living there and doing everyone's ironing. I remember my nights and other nights visiting the Browns' house for parties, and when it was time for Mavis to call it a night, she'd always say, "Good night, everyone, I'm going home now," and just proceed to walk upstairs. Mavis had a great sense of humour, thick skin, and was resilient, and she had to be, having Barry Brown as a son-in-law who would affectionately call her the Dragon. Evidence of these qualities that Mavis had when a family friend, Ray Smokey Sundstrom, rang the home phone one day to speak to Barry. Mavis answered and said, "Hi Smokey, it's Mavis." There was a pause on the other end, and Mavis could send a confused Smokey as she replied, "It's the Dragon." "Oh," and then Smoke knew instantly who he was talking to. After about 5 years of Jimmy's passing, Mavis got involved again in dancing at the Tuggerah Lakes Memorial Club. It was where Mavis met and formed a great friendship with Mavis McMahon. Mavis McMahon's son Glenn would take both the Mavises shopping each and every week, and Mavis would especially like the fact that Glenn could find the finest scotch for her each week on those shopping expeditions. Even after his mum Mavis's passing, Glenn would still take Mavis Brown on these shopping trips each week, and the family thanked Glenn deeply for his time and generosity. Mavis loved watching as the grandchildren started to marry. Firstly, Jay married Sarah in 1998 and Damien married Belinda in 1999. Mavis soon started to become a great-grandmother and she adored them all. Kaisha, Joseph, Alex, Jamea, Josie, Emily, Tara, Judah, Cody and Tyler. Mavis was very proud of the fact she was being one of the original Furphies from Victoria, quite famous for developing specialised farming equipment and the vital invention of the Furphy water cart. And she now famously has a beer named after her called the Furphy Refreshing Ale. As Mavis's health started to decline in the last few years of her life, there was some caring, unselfish and deeply appreciated help by some loving people. The family would like to thank Laurel Sullivan, a friend of Terry's, who for the last 6 months would come every day to help Terry and give her some respite and care for Mavis. The family would also like to show their thanks and gratitude to Jane Millard, a nurse that would come to the house 3 times a week on and off for the past 3 years to help and care for Mavis. I'd like to now call forward the eldest, he'd probably like to be the youngest, the eldest grandson of Mavis's, Damien Brown, to give his memories of his grandmother.
My fondest memories of Grandma growing up are wandering up the stairs at the end of a long school day or weekend of soccer and sitting on the floor in front of her and getting a back scratch or a head rub and almost falling asleep in front of the TV. It was a place to go away from everything and everyone. It was a place of total comfort and relaxation. My brother Jay used the same tactics. Actually, I think he used it more than me. And it was quite common to walk up the stairs and one of us had got in first. Grandma would say, "Not long till your turn." It seems quite ironic that back scratches and head rubs from us gave Grandma comfort in her final few weeks in hospital. Over the years, I wandered upstairs for many games of Scrabble and Rummy King, which we both loved. Grandma would constantly have a go at me for my slow play. What can I say? I'm ultra competitive. If you wandered up a little late at night and there was a slight waft in the air, you knew the Scotch and ciggies had started. But no matter what, Grandma stopped what she was doing, took her place at the seat and invested in some time with us. Grandma took a big interest in watching our soccer games. She used to say before every match, "Don't let them bluff you." Now, I thought this was a little out of context in regards to the game we were playing, but she said it so seriously that I think we found our own meaning. Many of these games ended up being played in Sydney, which she loved coming along to. She loved the friendly banter with the opposition families, but we soon came to realise she also liked the not-so-friendly banter just as much. And it quickly became the safer option for Grandma to sit the next few games out. Whether she came or not, she kept on telling us before every game, "Don't let them bluff you." We will miss Grandma's interactions with Dad. Dad would quite often say at the end of the night, "Dragon, get upstairs." And she would just raise her hand and say, "Ugh," as if she was giving him the finger, all in jest, of course. We will miss the way she licked her lips after she ate prawns and oysters, her Mars bar slice at Christmas time, her stories of Chucky the Budgie, her stories of skinny dipping late at night in the pool. Sorry kids, we've got to tell you about that one, but you'll be fine, it was a while ago. And of course we will miss your laugh. Not just mother and daughter, Grandma and Mum were great mates. Mum tells us how they would sometimes have blow-ups out of nothing at night and then be best friends as if nothing had happened the next day. I suppose after living in the same household for over 35 years, they'd worked each other out. They got even closer in the final years when Grandma did less, which meant Mum did more. They shopped, lunched, visited friends and did medical appointments when Grandma was up to it. But these out-of-house adventures would take their toll in the end. I got called to a Grandma emergency one early morning a couple of months back, and as Laurel and I patched up Grandma's legs, it started to sink in what such an unbelievable job both Mum and Dad had been doing for such a long time, and we thank them wholeheartedly for this. We are guessing it was approximately 22 years ago when I was upstairs again chatting to Grandma about life in general, her childhood growing up in Sydney, work life as a young teenager, getting into the funeral business with Thomas Dixon Funerals, and then making the big move up to the Central Coast. Now, none of us can remember exactly what the occasion was, Grandma's birthday, Mother's Day possibly, but I ended up putting this information into a poem for Grandma. I'm certainly not a poet, but Grandma loved it. She framed it, hung it on her wall, and basically it was like the movie The Castle. It went straight to her pool room. At the time of writing it, I certainly didn't think I would be reading it out at her funeral, but I know it's what she would have wanted. So here it goes. Okay, deep breath. The 6th day of January 1927, God dropped a beauty from the gates of heaven. Crown Street Hospital was right in town, well known for the birth of Mavis Leah Brown. From Redfern to Strathfield and back again, from North Sydney to Crown Street she found her men, then to the entrance to bury the dead, and now at Shelley Beach she rears her head. Her schooling life recalls the day, Homebush, North Sydney and Lavender Bay. Pat Corriger, Margaret Walsh and Betty Horton are three friends that bring back the fading memory. In youth she was primed to play many sports, basketball and tennis and anything on courts. At a time when the boys just wanted her pants, young Mavis, they knew her, just wanted to dance. Work began at a very young age. Bon March and the laundry brought in her wage. Work in the office with wearing hats and gloves too. Across the road printing with Kalamazoo. From printing to funerals she ended up fixing. Back to Old Crown Street with Mr. Thomas Dixon. Meanwhile on the coast they're dropping like flies. So one hint to Jimmy and they're saying their goodbyes. Jimmy's a subject all to himself. Did not mind a chocolate, anything top shelf. Coming from Scotland where they're taught to hunt. Moved to Australia where we're born to punt. Therese and Laurel are children she rears, the first whom lives at the bottom of the stairs. The second one lives up the road a few k's. If you leave right now, you'll be there in 2 days. A bit quicker these days. 4 grandchildren and a great-grandchild on the way. There is Trent, Corinne, the one and only, and Jay. The love you have shown us as we travel our path. Each day we see you, we live for your laugh. The dragon, the swinger, the ironing lady, whatever, to us your grandma. The best one ever.
Damien, your grandmother would have been very proud. I'd like to now call Jill Duggan, a long-time family friend and a dear friend to Mavis, to come up and share some of her memories.
Oh my heavens, how do I even open my mouth after that? That was fantastic. I'm here just to reminisce on a couple of very, very funny outings that we had with Mavis and Jimmy along the line. We've been friends forever, pretty much 60 years I think we worked it out. But here's just a couple that were fabulous. But you stole a couple of my punchlines. So firstly, back in the day, 40 years ago, golf club, Saturday night, we'd all come back to Anne and John's home at Batteau Bay, at Twern Bay, and party on and swim, as you said. You said Mavis liked the skinny dip. Not that that happened this night. But John was in fine form telling jokes, as he used to be, phenomenal. Jimmy planted himself in the rocking chair. So with each punchline, Jimmy would whack his feet on the ground and go back. But of course the obvious happened. The last punchline on this joke was just too much. So he's gone flying back through the wall, broken the wall, but he wasn't hurt because the chair had arms on it, so it actually went back. So John's jumped up, bashed the wall out, but Mavis is yelling out, "Leave him there, leave him there, leave him there." So John's jumped up, bashed the wall, and of course we had to go back about 2 weeks later to celebrate the opening of the new wall, which we call Jimmy's Wall. And then just one other little one, that was been Melbourne Cup Day, and we had done a fashion parade down at El Lago, which back in the day was the place to go. And we moved in, the parade had finished and everybody had gone, but not the three of us. We just decided that we wanted more. So we've gone from the outer part into the bar. So we're having a drink, and the manageress came and said, "Look, I'm sorry, ladies, you'll have to go. We've got to get ready for the evening crew to come." And Mavis said, "But we're not finished yet." She said, "Well, I'm very sorry about that." And Mavis said, "Do you know who I am? I'm Mrs. Jimmy Brown. We've just come back. My husband and I have just come back from Las Vegas, and I've been dancing with Debbie Reynolds." And she said, "Well, I don't care who you are. You've got to go." And then Mavis said, "But I've never been asked to leave anywhere." She said, "Well, you have now." But just one other thing, I have never known in my life a woman younger as she's gotten older, and in these last years, so proud and so in love with all you beautiful grandchildren. First of all, the grandchildren, Damien, Jay and Corinne, and then as the great-grandchildren came, she knew everything that you did. She was so proud of you all, and everybody. I mean, the first thing she'd say to me, "How are your kids going? What are they doing?" And I know Anne would say the same thing. She was genuinely interested in what everybody was doing, and so very happy for everybody. So she'd be up there now, laughing her head off with Jimmy, going, "I told you so, I told you so." But the other funny thing she used to do is, we said to her, what does that mean? And she'd say, "Uncle." And we'd say, "What does that mean?" She said, "I don't know." She said it was just everything was good and I was ready and I was happy, so that was Uncle. So she's up there now saying Uncle. So you fly high, my friend. We had many, many fabulous times together. And I'm very, very proud to have been invited to say a few words about our lovely friend and this wonderful family, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. I'll check with you before I come up next time, okay? We'd now like to, if you'd like to look up at the screen, there'll be a slideshow of family pictures compiled by Mavis's great-granddaughter, Emily, and it's put to the music of My Heart Will Go On by Andre Rouer. Mavis, you'd be pleased to know I've stuffed up the order of service. It isn't in order, but as Damien said, she'd say don't let them bluff you, just keep going on. So after that now we'll call Jemaya Brown, Mavis's eldest great-granddaughter, to come forward and read a poem, accompanied by all the grandchildren, Joseph, Alex, Emily, Josie, Judah, Cody and Tyler. We'll stand with Jemaya.
For Grandma, a life well lived. A life well lived is a precious gift of hope and strength and grace from someone who has made our world a brighter and better place. It's filled with moments sweet and sad, with smiles and sometimes tears, with friendships formed and good times shared and laughter through the years. A life well lived is a legacy of joy and pride and pleasure, a living lasting memory our grateful hearts will treasure. Proverbs 31 verse 25 to 29 speaks of the kind person Grandma was and what she means to us. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instruction with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren stand and bless her. There are many capable and virtuous women in the world, but Grandma, you surpass them all.
I'll show my versatility now and duck across, and there'll be a second part of Emmy's slideshow, and I'll ask the friends to join with the family for a floral tribute to put a single rose on Mavis's casket to one of Mavis's favourite songs, You'll Never Walk Alone by Jerry and the Pacemakers.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver sound of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, walk on. when you walk through a storm. Hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver sound of love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, walk on.
Mavis will be pleased I went too early again. Well, Mavis, Leah Brown, it's your turn to receive the much deserved applause from the crowd for a life well lived, and all your family and friends, thank you for the special privilege of sharing in your life, and we show our gratitude. So if I could ask those who could to be upstanding, and those that can't, you can clap from your seat. I'd like us all to put our hands together and give this lady the standing ovation applause she deserves for a wonderful life well lived. I have no doubt that Mavis will be looking down on us today with a cigarette and the finest scotch in hand. If you'd like to all just be seated. This concludes our service today, and on behalf of the family, I thank you all for attending today's service and remind you that you're all invited back to Terry and Barry's home at Shelley Beach to further celebrate the wonderful life of our golden girl, Mavis Brown. And I think it's fitting that we'll leave today with the Peter Allen song, Quiet Please, There's a Lady on Stage.
Quiet please, there's a lady on stage. She may not be the latest range, but she's singing and she means it. She deserves a little silence. Quiet please, there's a woman up there, and she's been honest through her songs long before your consciousness was raised. Now doesn't that deserve a little praise? So put your hands together and help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand for the ovation and give her one last celebration. Quiet please, there's a person up there who's singing of the sins that none of us could bear. better hear for ourselves. Give her your respect, if nothing else. And put your hands together and help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Rise to the occasion. Give her one last celebration. Quiet please, there's a lady on stage. Conductor, turn the final page. When it's over, we can all go home. But she lives on the stage alone. So put your hands together, help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand for the ovation and give her one last celebration. Put your hands together and help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Right for the ovation and give her one last celebration. Put your hands together, help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Put your hands together, help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand for the ovation, and won't you give her one last celebration. Put your hands together and help her along. Let's just stay here all night and let's sing every song. Won't you rise to the occasion, and won't you give her one last celebration. Put your hands together, help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand for the ovation. Yes, give her